Hey guys, it's Ethan from Zimmer Labs, and tonight's video is on this Corbanth LS6 masterpiece level install that I just finished up for Fernando. This was a very challenging build, mainly because there's a lot of experimental ideas that I had that I wanted to implement into this, as well as a conjunction of a lot of new stuff coming out and a lot of tweaks that I wanted to make to the hilt, and kind of all rolled into one package, which ended up just making this a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. But I think it came out well, and I'm glad that I tried all the stuff I tried. So to begin with, I wanted to start on this guy addressing some of the inherent issues with the hilt. This is a bone stock, straight out of the box, brand new one. The first main issue is the Gullwing Doors down here. I think you guys could probably see that. They don't close all the way. There's a 1.5 mm gap there, and that's pretty standard. I've actually seen some that are twice that wide. I've never seen one that actually closes all the way shut, and that's not a huge deal, but on a premium hilt like this, you'd expect little things like that to be perfect. So I wanted to address that. And the next thing is the pommel. It's a nice finish on this hilt, with two exceptions. The pommel doesn't match. It looks like it's kind of unfinished. All the corners are extremely sharp, like so sharp that if you slid your finger down it, you'd probably cut yourself. And then it's also just, all the edges are scratched up because it's too sharp. It's like the machine shop that did this maybe had another pass to go on the pommels and just didn't do it. And then ditto for the I guess it's brass, the brass top here. This one is actually one of the nicest I've seen as far as the brass tops to the control boxes go, but generally these are pretty pitted and just kind of discolored looking. So sanding and polishing these makes a huge difference. So that's essentially, those were my first things that I wanted to tackle. The Gullwing Doors, I'm happy to report, are a nice tight fit and close correctly now. And it wasn't really a difficult thing to do. All you have to do is, on the inside of the doors here, sand them down and remove about 1 mm of material from the inside face of them. That way they can close all the way and they actually come together and meet. Which is great, because that's, it's just a little thing, but it makes a big difference. Next up is the pommel, and once again, just some sanding and some polishing on the pommel gives it a nice, even look. The whole thing is relatively consistent now. It looks like the finish is, the same throughout. The control box also nice and shined up. Then I just gave the rest of it a light polish as well, just so that it would be the same throughout. The next thing that was kind of something that's always been kind of an annoyance to me is that you get no blade plug with this lightsaber. It's not, it's not the hilt creator's job to give you guys blade plugs, but it's nice because a lot of them do. This looks like it's got a blade plug, but this is actually a static emitter. That this is part of the emitter, so you can't, this is not a removable blade plug, and it's a shame because it's nice looking. But using that as a concept, that's the look that I wanted to get. So I actually made this one from scratch out of just a cylinder of aluminum that I had handy. And see, I'll take it out for you guys real quick. 2 set screws. And what I did was clear Gorilla Tape on the back to insulate the metal from the pogo pins here. A section of really thin polycarbonate tube around the edge to allow the light to shine through, and then just polished up the front end here. And now, when you turn it on, you get a nice illuminated ring around the edge, and it looks like what you would expect to see from a Return of the Jedi Luxeber on the front end here. Turn it on. Your main power switch is the clamp card. And there you go, nicely illuminated. The next thing I wanted to do was address these little triangular arrows. These are red and green when they're illuminated, but when they're not illuminated, they're clear. And I don't think that's really accurate. They should be red and green even when they're turned off. So I wanted to actually make sure to go ahead and color those. So hopefully you can catch that, but they are in fact red and green now. The next thing that I love about this hilt is that it's totally modular. A couple twists of these two screws, and well, another twist actually, and the whole pommel slides off, and the whole emitter and grenade section also slides off, and you're left with the central core here. You open up the Gullwing Doors, and it's, you know, it's pretty modular, but I've always thought that it really ought to be fully modular. Just go that next step so you can take it all the way apart. And I wanted to accomplish that by making this control box into kind of a key that kind of maintains and runs the entire lightsaber itself. So what I did was I made it a fully contained, you know, all the mechanics and electronics are inside of this. The switch is still there. Got your 8 header pins to control all the stuff that's going on in here. But that just slides out now. And when you do slide it out, you can then pull the entire chassis out. Now, that gives you all the electronics, the guts are here, and now I can show you guys the crystal reveal. This is the stock Custom Works. It's not exactly the MK1 crystal chamber, but it's very similar. It's a standalone crystal chamber that Dimitri offers. It's one of my favorites. I really like this because it works in a ton of different lightsaber applications, and it's just really cool looking. And it's bigger than either of the crystal reveals that Goth 3 Designs has given us to use with the Master Chassis. So I thought it would be good to take advantage of this one just because of the different look of it, the different style of it, and how it's slightly bigger. It allowed me to put 2 crystals in, a focusing crystal at the top, power crystal at the bottom with nice points, which both illuminate really well. Very, very happy with how that came out. They just shine exceptionally well. I'll go ahead and shut this guy back off and reassemble. The next real challenge with this was coming up with a method that would allow correct alignment for the installation of the chassis into the hilt, so that when Fernando gets this, he doesn't have to deal with trying to put it back together again and not having things line up and not knowing if he's doing it right, or worrying about breaking these little pins or bending them. So I needed a method by which there was only one way that this chassis could go back in. And the solution that appeared to me to be the easiest and most simple and straightforward is to just put a small channel in the bottom here. So I did cut a channel into the bottom of the inner hilt here and put a small metal peg into the chassis here. It's very firmly affixed. And all you have to do to insert this chassis now is to slide it up so that the metal peg goes into the channel, and push it all the way up and in so that it's as far in as it goes. And if you do that, then the activation key lines right up, slides right in. It is also, it's held in obviously by the header pins, but also by the 2 magnets that are here and here. So it is very firmly attached. It's not going to go flying out on you. And as simple as that, you got the whole thing back together again. So this lightsaber breaks down into its component pieces really incredibly easily and quickly, which is great if you want to adjust or access the electronics, change the config file or anything like that. You can gain access via USB to the Proffieboard, your SD card, and your recharge port is right here. To recharge it, it is a simple matter of plugging in this recharge cable that I am including, plug it in, and then plug this side into a standard 3.7 volt lithium charger. This is a dummy cell. The charger will think this is a battery and will just charge the lightsaber as if it were a battery. So now we have the crystal chamber inside the grenade section. Oops. I'm very happy with how bright that is, how clean it is. Sorry, I'm not left-handed. I shouldn't try to do things with my left hand. Just love how that came out. Now here's the blade plug illuminated, and to put the blade in, it's a simple matter of, again, unscrewing the emitter top, loosening up the two set screws that are up here, pull the blade plug, insert the blade. And this has a stock custom works Neopixel lit connector with a diffused poly plexiglass cover over it. So the whole thing is just a nice bright green. It doesn't look like individual pixels. I mean, it does a bit, but not a ton. Now the next thing I wanted to try with this guy, and is something that's new, is I wanted to build a different Neopixel blade. And I wanted to build it kind of as a throwback to Luxeon style blades. Those of you guys who had a lightsaber 3-4 years ago will know what I mean. Back in the day when lightsabers were built with LEDs in the hilt, that shone up the blade rather than having a string of LEDs inside the blade, had these silver blades as opposed to these white blades that we're all used to with string blades. And the thing that's cool about those is that the colors are very different when you're using a Luxeon style blade. The reason is, while these standard string blade white blades are fine and they look good, they are, every blade color does turn a bit white because of the white diffusing tube. And that's not an issue that's inherent with the silver blade. You don't get any whitening. So that actually creates a whole different look for all the different colors. And it's something that I miss about the older style lightsabers. That's one of the few things that I really liked a lot about them, and one of the only things that I like more about them than the Neopixels. But with this type of blade, you get the best of both worlds, because you get the old Luxeon style colors in a string blade. And you also get the central core effect of like a Corbin style blade with the blade wrapping. this blade looks like it's got a laser in the middle of it that's emanating out, and it looks more like a blade full of plasma that's glowing, rather than this guy just looks like a solid, all the same blade that is illuminated evenly throughout. These guys are very different. And that's, you know, that was a very experimental thing. I just wanted to try, and it came out really well. I'm really glad that that I did it. Then also, the next new thing is all of the different effects that you could do with the Proffieboard. There's a lot of creativity because it's an open source community, and a lot of people are coming up with a lot of good things. One of the new ideas is to increase the size of the drag tip, so it's not just 2 or 3 pixels at the top, but it can be kind of as big as you want it. And so on this guy, I tried to make all the tips for all the different blade presets longer, like, you know, almost a third of the actual blade itself. So check out how this works. Hopefully you guys can see that, but it's a drag tip all the way to about here, and it's brightest at the top and then kind of slowly gradients down. But the effect looks way better when it's bigger like that. And you also get localized lockup. The effect is right in the middle of the blade where another blade would be hitting it. This one I made really a large localized effect, so the whole lockup section is more than half of the blade. But it does alternate and kind of grows and shrinks. Oh god, I'm such a klutz. Really good drag tip on that guy. This one is a really cool looking blade with the Luxeon blade. It's not exactly a standard fire blade, but it's close. But the effect on this guy is just totally different when you're looking at it with this blade versus a standard white blade. Just gotta love that. Let's see what else to show you guys about with this guy. I'll do a quick side-by-side of the standard blade and the new Luxeon style Neopixel blade so that you guys can get an idea of what the difference really is. So I'll put the standard blade in my trusty Tuscan Slayer here. There we go. So we got a green blade here, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's a good looking blade, but it is green that's kind of white because it's, you know, it's coming through that white diffusing thing, and the whole thing is solidly lit, which is good. It's a nice thick beefy blade, but there's no, you know, difference within the blade. There's no effects going on inside of it, unless you're doing some sort of effect. Let's contrast that with the Luxeon style green. Same color blade, same preset, but the look is totally different. If you look in the reflection on the monitor there, you can really see the difference. The bottom one is much more diffuse, much more washed out, whereas the top one is a much sharper, like a green laser almost. And in real life, the blades look totally different. They really, really look totally different. There we go. There's the fire blade. We'll do 2 fire blades side by side. Hopefully you guys can see the difference there. They really do look completely different. Right. So that's about it. Let's run through the remainder of the blades. This is a turbine blade that is cool white to green. Really like this guy. Electricity blade. This is the acid trip blade, because it's just really trippy and wild, crazy colors going on in it. This is an RGB audio flicker cool and green blade. Oh, I need to fix that tip. This is a green fire blade. This is the Sauron, Eye of Sauron blade. Props to Fernando de Rosa for making this one. I think, yeah, gets us back to the beginning again, the opening blade, which is a standard Return of the Jedi green. And now lastly, all of these fonts that are on here, is about 10 to 12 different fonts. They're all smooth swing, but they also are all accent swing. Personally, I don't know if I'm doing it exactly right, but I'm not noticing a huge difference between what a standard smooth swing font sounds like and one that has accent swings in it too. They all sound really good, and the accuracy is really good on all of them, but I'm not noticing a massive difference between the different having accent swings and not having accent swings. So research continues there. I need to figure out if I'm missing something or what, but nonetheless, a lot of different things going on with this guy. A lot of different challenges and new ideas put into it. Fernando, let me know what you think. Hopefully you like it, and let me know if there's anything you want me to add, subtract, or change. And she's basically ready to go. What's coming up next? I've got this guy, which I just finished up the other day, which is the newest Graflex blade holder. This is the Martin Bayer. I'm not exactly sure. It's just the emitter V2, he calls it. But it's, you know, the fully loaded, all tricked out, two-piece Graflex emitter. This is the full section here. This part would be inside the hilt, so you wouldn't see it. And this would be the front end of the lightsaber. This was way more challenging than I expected it to be. Mostly just because you have to mount all these guys with little tiny screws, and drilling and tapping all those little tiny holes is kind of a pain. But the finished product came out really nice. I'm really happy with how it came out, and I am definitely looking forward to mounting this onto a Graflex. So that's coming up. And then my next lightsaber that you guys see a video on is going to be my Titan class MK1, which will be a first there. It's going to be a red edition using this chassis, all red components. I personally love how the color scheme on this looks. Red anodized metal rods, red anodized speaker, and then just really cool depth of color and character in that chassis from the anodized painting on it. But that's coming up very shortly. It's going to be a Titan class with biggest speaker you can cram in there, also a 26650 removable battery and crystal chamber. That's right. All inside an MK1, and it's going to be excellent. I think that's about it for now. So thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned, and Fernando, let me know what you think.